Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. This is Beautiful Color Conversations. My name is Dr. Karen Moore. I am the founder of I Am the Color of Beautiful Global Spoken Word Initiative and Movement. And I'm so glad as we launch this show to have two incredible men here with me today to talk about colorism and some aspects of colorism. So I want to introduce to you World Civility leader, Dr. Clyde Rivers is joining us today. Good morning, Dr. Rivers. It's morning where you are.
Yes, thank you.
Good morning, sir. And we also have the 2020 Kenya Icon World Civility Leader, Professor Jared Akama is joining us from Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you for being here with us, sir. Can you hear me, Dr. Akama? Okay, great. Thank you for being here with us. So today...
Yes, I can hear you. Good evening. Good morning.
I'm sorry, say again?
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good evening to you, right? It's about 7 o'clock in Nairobi. We so appreciate you being here with us today. So today we're discussing colorism. I Am the Color of Beautiful Global Spoken Word Initiative and Movement deals with colorism. And the idea that colorism is actually the philosophy that people with darker skin are not as important, are not as valuable, are not as beautiful as people with light skin. And so today we're actually talking about how does colorism impact socioeconomic status, income, and wealth. And we're also going to talk about how do we counteract the effects of colorism with world civility. So the topic is running across the bottom of the screen in case you miss it or you missed it. We are talking about colorism today and the effects on the social and economic status, wealth, and income. So Dr. Rivers, would you like to start out by talking to us about how colorism affects socioeconomic status? Dr. Rivers, we can't hear you.
Let him unmute. He's muted.
I'm sorry, sir.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. Yes.
Okay. What I believe one of the big issues in the world with actually colorism is inequality of opportunity. See, no one wants equity of things. We need equity of opportunity for everybody in the world.
Right.
And until we have that balance of equity of opportunity, because see, people hear you say equity of things. Equity of things is not possible because everyone's gifting is different. We need equity of opportunity. And that is one of the major conversations that we're going to have in the world now. And that affects socioeconomics in a major way. When you don't have equity of opportunity, it's a game changer.
Right. And Professor Jared, your perspective on that?
Yeah, colorism is simply discrimination. And when you discriminate people simply because of color, it will bring terrible problems in the world. And as I've always said and quoted the Bible, that we were created in the image of God
Yes.
and his likeness, and he wanted us to be equal. Even Jesus Christ, when he was here, Israel was being ruled by the Romans. He did not tell the Jews to consider themselves more than superior than the other. That's why he even came up with the story of the Good Samaritan. So long as we attend to people's needs, regardless who they are, that's what God wants us to be.
Yes.
Yes. Absolutely. And one of the things I think here, particularly in the United States, is that it's gotten to the place where colorism, or the color of one's skin, is many times more important than their credentials. It's more important than all of the schooling and education that you have had. Many times, one of the things that I've discovered in my searching is that many employers, even many times a light-skinned man with a bachelor's degree, they would rather have him than a dark-skinned man with a master's degree. So we're looking at color has begun to take a precedent over how people are valued and how people are judged.
Yeah, that's actually that's a statement of truth. And see, what I say is this: there's an unintended consequence. Dr. Karen Moore and Jared Akama, listen. The unintended consequences, James 2:8 in the Bible, is the royal law. Now, what I'm going to say, the royal law says if you love your neighbor as yourself, you live under liberty. It says if you mistreat your neighbor, you live under transgression. So the unintended consequence in the world is, listen to this here, the way you treat people is the way you will be treated. So people are really sowing for themselves a day of injustice. And this is why I am bringing World Civility, saying, hey, look, let's end this. Let's give equity of opportunity so that what happens to us won't happen to you. It's a biblical law, Dr. Moore.
Yes, it is. Dr. Akama, you have something on that?
Yeah, let me just have this to say, and I like using this example, that when you go to hospital and you require blood, you will never want to know the kind of blood, whether it's from a black man or a white man. What you want is blood. So humanity is one. And as Dr. Rivers puts it, that you discriminate God's people, you make God's people suffer, there is ultimate payback time. And God in heaven, who created us equal, will punish you. Time for punishment will come.
Right. That's so true. And I think it's important, too, that we understand one of the things with the I Am the Color of Beautiful movement is we specifically deal with beauty and women of color, and particularly dark-skinned women of color, understanding their worth, understanding their beauty. But the thing that I also have come to find out about colorism is that it goes so far beyond just beauty. It's not just beauty. Yes, beauty is definitely an issue. And one of the things that I have found is that we do not have so many images of beautiful Black women, darker skinned Black women that we're presented with in the media, in television and in movies and in magazines and things. We don't have as many darker skinned women being put up there as being beautiful, so that we have images, and that our girls have images of darker skinned women also being beautiful. But like I said, colorism goes so far beyond just beauty. This is the thing that I'm really beginning to see as I do my searching, that it goes so much further than just what's beautiful, what people are seeing as beautiful. It is impacting us on a socioeconomic status and income and in wealth. So my next question for my guests is, how do we begin to really turn that around? How do we begin to let people understand? And Dr. Rivers, you did touch on this about understanding the value of people regardless of their color, and being able to get beyond that so that we can be civil to one another. Because one of the issues that we're finding is that we're just not embracing people of all colors. We're not understanding about the value. And Dr. Rivers, you have said this so many times that everybody has value. So how do we get past this issue of people who are darker skinned not having value?
If you don't mind me, let me address that issue. I think, Dr. Moore, it comes back to not giving people power over you. No race in the world has power over the God that made me. So I believe we have to teach our people what God says they are all over the world. See, no one controls my destiny but God. And obviously with the pandemic out there, it's pretty obvious that God controls a lot of people's destiny. And now there's going to be a new conversation that come to the table, because I just never look at anybody as superior. No one's ever been able to stop me because of my walk with God. And then if we go biblically, it says a man's gift will make room for him and bring him towards great people. So I think we have to educate our people to who God says they are and not listen to the images of others.
Yes, absolutely. Professor Jared?
Yeah, this is what I have to say, that I did say that we are created in the image of God. God is not created in the image of the whites or the blacks people or Ankara. And the Psalms 139 verse 14 says that I am fearfully and wonderfully made. If you are fearfully and wonderfully made, I don't think you can admire anybody else, because when you look at him, you are an image of God. When he looks at you, you are an image of God. And when Jesus was commissioning his disciples to go out and commission, he said that they go to every nations and they make disciples. He did not choose the specific people. And John the Revelator in Revelation chapter 14, the third angel message, he says that you go to every nation, every language, every people, and you give them the word. So you should take that you are fearfully and wonderfully made, and admire yourself the way you are, and practice beauty.
Absolutely. 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 And one of the things in Psalm 139, if you read it in the Message Bible, it says, Holy God, you are breathtaking. So if I'm made in the image of God, that means I am breathtaking. And it says body and soul, we are marvelously made. So that means that God has marvelously made me with my dark skin. I am marvelously made. And so if we can embrace that, about ourselves, we can certainly truly begin to embrace that with other people. And one of the things that I think is going to be so crucial for us, and I say this, and I would like both of you to, you've kind of commented on it, that if you don't love yourself, it's very difficult for you to love other people. And if you don't find your own self-esteem, if you do not understand, and I think that I know so much of what I found in talking with people and in doing our panel, that it starts in the home. A lot of it starts in the home. And if we aren't talking to our children about how wonderful they are and how beautiful they are, and some children may not be coming up in environments where people are saying that to them. And so, I think that, we always talk about community, and we always talk about coming together as a community. And one of the things that I think is that these children that may not have that influence in their homes, that the rest of us have to be willing to speak to our children, speak to the children in the community, and be able to tell them about how marvelous they are and how wonderfully made they are, and that with their beautiful brown skin, how valuable they are. So if they're not getting it in the home, where are some of the places where we can begin to speak to them and let our children know, as well as adults, because there are adults who are living with decades of hurt and trauma from colorism, decades of it, and the healing has to begin. And so where do we start to begin to do that within our communities?
Dr. Moore, if you don't mind me coming with, I've seen a colorism in Africa where everyone's black. I've seen colorism in El Salvador where everyone's brown. I've seen colorism in America where it may be different skin colors. I've seen it everywhere because it's a spirit. It's a spirit of division. I mean, when you go to a continent that's all black, and you say this is the rich tribe, this is the poor tribe, this is this, and this is this. So, because of my vast experience of traveling around the world, I can tell you, it comes back to the identity of God, because it isn't. And see, this is a conversation that actually levels the actual playing field, because it isn't just a skin color against another one. It's anywhere where there's differences, I've seen extreme division, and that's all colors equal and the same.
Wow. Absolutely. Dr. Jared?
Yeah, let me just have this to say that if you think in a negative way and take yourself in a negative way, that's who you become. If you refuse for someone not to stereotype you, that's what you become. And I would want to quote Martin Luther King the Jr. and Nelson Mandela. They were looking, when he had a dream that people should be charged by the content of their character and not the color of the skin.
Yes.
Yeah, this. That if God has given you wealth and has given you education and has not humbled you to appreciate his creation, then your wealth and your education is nothing. So in the nutshell, I'm trying to say that you must love yourself who you are. You must take yourself positive. And if anything, if there's any people would want to discriminate other people, whom we have not done, civilization began in Africa. Africa is the continent, hear this, that we have never taken anybody's resources. Africa is where we get a people who are worshiping the true God in the present generation. So what we need to do, it is the content of your character and not the color of your skin. The skin cannot help you at all.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And we have to begin to understand who we are in God and begin to walk like we know who we are.
Yes.
We have to absolutely walk like we know who we are, with our heads held high, and not anyone, like you say, not anyone any more important than anyone else, but we have to still at the same time walk with our heads held high and understand and know who we are in God, that we are made in the image of God, and we are valuable. We are valuable to God. We are valuable to ourselves. We are valuable to one another. And as we talk about this, the interesting thing is, and one of the hot topics that is going on now is the idea that France wants to come into Africa and test the antidote for the coronavirus. And so what makes France think that they can interrupt the color of beautiful? What makes them think that it's okay to come in and test people of color before they've tested some of these places that have they have had many more cases than Africa has had? And I believe that it goes back to, again, in my opinion, devaluing Black skin.
Colonial mindsets have to be broken. And what it is, let me encourage you this. The oppressor never lets the oppressed go free. The oppressed have to impact to where change happens. But one of the beautiful things about this, when those comments were made, all of Africa unified.
Yes.
All of Africa stood up and said, not this time. So that's this, the power of that unity will shift. And if you don't mind me talking about the actual virus for a second, because Dr. Moore, my foundation is the word of God. Right. That's what I live off. And I don't discriminate. I work with everyone. I do it. But I'm telling you, the word of God is the issue that's being violated. Man has put policies in and they think they're smarter than God. But let me challenge you. What's one coronavirus has shown the world is there's a God on the throne, and he's bigger and smarter than everybody else. And I believe when this pandemic ends, there will be brand new conversations at the table. Everyone's going to be at the table because let me give you an example really quick. If one person got this virus in China, that's one person that shut the whole world down. So guess what? So I've officially become my brother's keeper. Now I have to be concerned when that person in Africa is sick, when that person in America is sick, when that person in Latin America, because one person shut the world down, something the world has never seen before. So who is more valuable now? It's one person. It becomes priceless to the world. And this is what I see, that this actual virus has shown who the essential workers are and who the non-essential workers are.
Right.
And watch this here. And I really believe with God, everyone's an essential worker. So people are going to be looking for new forms of education, new forms of employment. But this time, Dr. Moore, I pray they look inside of them and find out what their gift is and let God bring the gift out, and they'll always be an essential worker.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We all are essential.
Yes.
Dr. Jared?
Let me have this to say. Africa, we have God. We are created in the image of God. We are fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yes.
The prophets of doom was saying that the streets of Africa will be littered with dead bodies. Have you seen?
No.
God has protected Africa. And hear this. Where did the virus originate from? We don't eat the kind of food God did not tell us to eat. The virus is connected with the plants and animals. So they will wait. If they will want to come and test for in Africa, they will not have patients to come and test. Patients are elsewhere. They should where the patients are. So Africa, we have God, and God will protect these people. And God has decided to shut the world, and He will open it at His own time, and nobody will tell what God wants to do.
Absolutely.
Dr. Karen Moore, see, what this comes down to is man has thought they were smarter than God. And just look, Dr. Moore, no one did this. What I tell people, I said, if you think I'm listening to everyone that's now prognosticating, they didn't know this was coming. So how do they have all the answers now?
Yeah, right.
Well, you think I'm listening to you? So what happens? I'm listening to the word of God. And Dr. Moore, one thing we have to do, we have to teach people that they're made in the image of God, and no one controls. I was telling, there's two operating systems, the world's and God's. See, Karen, when I got born again, I began to follow God, and God's taken me where I'm at. So when you follow God, you become a part of another operating system, and He will take you and He will raise you up like He did. I always say there's more in store. When you talk to Dr. Karen Moore, take it to the top, Karen Moore.
Absolutely. And if we can really begin to get people to really understand who they are, one of the things that I know that I said when President Barack Obama became president, that when we tell our children now that they can grow up and be president, they have a point of reference. Prior to that, they didn't really have too much of a point of reference. Okay, you say that, but now they have a point of reference. So what we need to do also is to really begin to embrace people. We talk about civility and we talk about kindness and speaking, and we've got to speak to people. That's one of the things that I think too is very important. Is I try to greet my sisters and I say, "Hi, beautiful," so that I'm speaking beauty on them, so that they will begin to really see and understand that yes, you are beautiful. You are valuable. And if we can put aside so many of the things that divide us, like you say, it's so much about division. One of the things I found out also in my searching is that the slave owner named Lynch actually talked to other slave owners and said, this is how you continue to divide the slaves. And Dr. West mentioned it here in the comments, that division is a trick of the enemy. And we find all kinds of things to divide us instead of finding those things that are going to bring us together and unite us, that we have a commonality as human beings, first and foremost. And how much melanin you have in your skin just doesn't seem to always be that important, even though it's a major factor in what we're dealing with today. Just having some more melanin in your skin, the issue is, who are you? What kind of heart do you have? Like you said, Dr. Martin Luther King said to be judged by the content of our character and not the color of our skin. And we've got to begin to get to that place where who you are as a person is more important than what you look like.
Yeah, that's an absolute truth. You see, when I was just staying in America, I traveled to over 80 nations. When I saw division in other countries of the same skin color, that to me was eye opener. Because if you're raised in the West, you only see black, white, brown, this. But I went to countries and saw the same color. And that's when I knew the word of God is true. It's a spirit of division. It'll take anything and try to divide it. So my experience in America was one. And then I go here and they say, oh, that guy can't come with us. He's in the worker tribe. I go, but he looks just like you. Oh no, he's this. This is his tribe. And Jared, we have to address the issue of tribalism in Africa. Because watch this here. That thing right there needs to be addressed as well. You can't blame, I mean, honestly, we can't blame everybody else. And it's right there in the continent, tribes going back and forth. We're the rich tribe, they're the poor tribe. So if we're going to solve the problem, we got to get to the root of it and not just cut some fruit in one country. See, in my opinion, this is a conversation that Africa needs to have with itself. And I want to have that conversation because Jared, Dr. Akama knows. He knows right what I'm talking about. He knows the wealthy tribes and the poor tribes in the same country are divided. And here it is. And then you have all these different factions that go to war over all kind of stuff. And it's the spirit of division that can only be addressed with the spirit of unity.
Yes, let me just have this to say, that you can cheat people, you can cheat all the people, but not all the times you can cheat people or take people for a ride. The generation which is having discrimination, having tribalism is this generation. But the generation which is coming, the young people, they do not understand. They know what disturbs them is on how to approach life. They don't see which they are rich or poor. So those who are thriving on discrimination, on using tribalism, on using color, time is catching up. You can't cheat all the people all the time, but all the time people will come to discover who you are.
Yes, absolutely. And that's very interesting. We have people that are commenting that they did not know that there was tribalism instead of colorism in Africa. I know I didn't know that when you first told me that. We think that because everybody's the same color, like you said, that all is well. We had no idea. We had no idea.
Let me just have this to say. Africa has suffered all sorts of mannerism. We have been used as slave trade and we were colonized. When the African we got our independence, the African elites who took over from the whites, they started behaving like the whites. So in Africa, this was the kind of things that the tribes which were, when the missionaries came to Africa, they settled in a particular place. These people were able to go to school. They were able to get jobs. They were able to get resources. And when the whites went back to their country, these people started behaving like them. So in Africa, we are struggling with tribalism, ethnicity. As in the West, you are struggling with color.
Racism in America, tribalism and I've been to other countries where there's brown skinned people. And there's brown skinned people that are looking, that guy's this tribe. He's it isn't tribe. It's just, and I'm going. So it's everywhere where the word of God isn't implemented and people are taught value. This is why, Dr. Karen Moore, your colorism, we need to re-educate people that their value doesn't come from their culture, doesn't come from their system. Their value comes from God. And doesn't matter who you are, nothing can stop you when you plug into God. And I'm telling you, it happened in my own life. I'm special education, short bus stutterer, found God, got filled with the Holy Spirit, and he's taken me to lead the world in civility. And I'm saying, people, we've looked to the wrong education system to qualify us. God in heaven qualifies you, and when he qualifies you, no one can deny you. Karen Moore, I'm going somewhere right now.
Yes, you are, Dr. Rivers.
This is what I'm talking about, is God.
Go, Dr. Rivers.
Go ahead, Dr. Moore.
No, I'm telling you, I just wish that we really get to the place where we really understand who we are in God.
Yes.
And I think when we really get to that place where we understand that, we will find that we can do things we never, ever thought we would be able to do and go places we never thought we would be able to go. If we could just really tap into who we are in God.
Karen Moore, you have done it, girl. Let me tell you, your movement, let me tell you what her movement is going to do. Because with this division and with the same skin color, black on black in Africa, brown on brown in Latin America. In America, we have a mixture of everybody. You know what's going to happen is this. Karen, this actual movement will let people understand that their color is beautiful. All colors are beautiful. All colors. Because hear this, everywhere I go, there are disenfranchised people with the same color. So this is why people hate to have me on shows, because I'm going, hey guys, I've seen the same thing. So I'm not a proponent of either side. I'm like, it's division and we need unity. And Karen Moore will take us to the top, because there's always more in store with Dr.
Always
Moore.
Always more, Dr. Rivers. Always more. Dr. Jared, you wanted to say something?
Yeah. What I want to say is that the destiny and the fate of man belongs to God. If God wants you at the top, that's where you will be. And remember, the first will be the last. So those who are discriminating people, one time those whom you are discriminating will come to discriminate you. But thank God, we are preaching civility, that we treat people the way we want to treat ourselves. So what I'm trying to put across is that civility is the way, and the way is civility. The way you want to be treated, that's how I want to be treated. If you want to get a good job, that's what I want. If you want good education, that's what I want. If you want better standards of living, that's what I want. If you want better medical, that's what I want. So treat people the way you want to be treated. Don't use your skin, because you won't go far.
That's right. That is so true. And I think also that it's going to be really important for us. One of the things that I always impress upon people also is about having a conversation. It's important that we have conversations, because many times, based on our experience, I shared when I did my colorism panel that there had to come a point where I couldn't assume that every negative interaction that I had with a light-skinned woman was because she was reacting that way to me because of my color. Just like we can't assume that every negative reaction that we might have with someone of a different race is because they're racist. Sometimes there might be a bad day, or there are other things that are going on that people aren't as kind and considerate as they should be. And many times it's a matter of having a conversation. We shouldn't always also just assume that things are the way they are because of what our experience has been. We've got to have a conversation. And I believe that's a large part of civility also, is having a conversation, so that I can know, my pain is your pain. And if you're in pain, then I've got to be able to talk to you and help you get past that pain. But in order to do that, I have to have a conversation.
Dr. Moore, if you don't mind me interjecting, that's so beautiful. That's why I believe after the pandemic, the answer to the world is civility. Let me explain why. We have to have different conversations, and my philosophy is 7.8 billion people have the answer for 7.8 billion people. 7.8 billion people with a solution will solve the problems of 7.8 billion people. So now we have to look at it. It's been a small number of people that didn't use the capacity and the ideas of God in the other 6 billion people in the world. So those 6 billion people that aren't at the table have a conversation, a gift from God. So we don't have an economic famine. We have a gift famine. The one with God's gift isn't at the table, but they're coming real soon.
Yeah.
Because one guy that gets sick in the world shuts the whole world down. Can anybody hear me now? Is the whole world listening now? You have to have new conversations, because one person, one individual in a country that you may not even know can shut you down. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. One person has got the world. We are 3 of us here. We can open the world. We can defeat colorism. I am saying through education and trying to sing, telling people to do the right thing, we can be like the mustard seed, a tiny seed, but became a giant tree where all the birds came to take shelter. So what I'm trying to say is this, that we have to use education, the right education. The world is moving towards ICT. The world needs innovation. That is what should concern us more than using the color, using racialism, using tribalism, using discrimination. You cannot move in that direction. We are a voice, and with time, God is going to use us to open the world and tell people to do the right things, because we have God. And when we have God, the sky is the lower limit.
Yes. Yes,
Man.
Absolutely. That's amazing. Go ahead, Dr. Edwards.
Yeah. And see what, let me tell you what I see in my perspective. Every country has to have their own dialogue after this. The tribalism countries have to have their own dialogue now. Countries where the skin colors are different have to have their own conversations, because guess what? Let me tell you what this pandemic has done. People, I'm going somewhere with this, Dr. Moore. Every time we talk, girl, you go to the top of the mountain.
Go, Dr. Edwards,
okay.
Go.
Now, what happens? This is the first time that the West couldn't fly resources into Africa. The quarantine. This is the first time that dollars weren't coming in. And this is the first time in the world no country will be able to help another one, because when this pandemic ends, all the economies are crushed. So let's talk about the conversation now. Leaders of nations will have to look their people in the eyes and say, tribe 1, tribe 2, tribe 3, black, white, brown, let's have a real conversation, because we are broken.
Yes.
And the church said, wow. Amen. There's a new conversation that will be had in every country of the world, because guess what? Let me tell you what this pandemic has proven, that no one can depend on anyone outside to take care of them. People, we're looking for ventilators for us. You're calling for us to help you? Excuse me. First day that we had the pandemic, all the toilet paper was gone. I said, it doesn't give you diarrhea. Come on now.
I think people thought it was going to.
I like that one, Dr. Rivers. The word, what we have learned from this, and this is how we are going to defeat colorism and discrimination. COVID-19 has taught us that the humanity is one. We are interconnected. Each and every one of us is caged in a room and they cannot even get out. We not even want to shake hands. So we are going to come out of this COVID-19 as a new people, having a common vision and trying to say that the way we have treated people before, the way we have taken ourselves that we are privileged than others, we are going to address the common problem. Let me just use a case for Africa as a case. That most of the time people have been going to UK, United States of America, India for treatment, or Australia. Now they can't go there. No, after this pandemic, people are going to have resources closer to their areas and improve their hospitals, improve their medical facility, because when you don't listen for God, God will force you to listen. When we are telling people it is not good to discriminate people on color, on race, on tribalism, and you don't want to listen, God will force you to listen the way we have now listened.
Now, Dr. Moore, let me explain what he's saying. I'm sorry, Jared. I think the point that he's talking about, the wealthy people in Africa would never get their medical care in Africa. Leaders that were supposed to build hospitals would always fly out when they had problems to the West. Well, guess what? A friend of mine told me a story of a governor in an African country that's a wealthy man that was supposed to build a hospital in a region. Guess what? 2 weeks ago, he got sick. And he can't go to the West. And he said, the first thing I'm building is a hospital. Why?
Wow.
He had a personal revelation. So what I'm talking about is, this is why I'm pushing people now. I'm saying, we got to gear up for the new conversation, because people will come to the table with equity this time. With equity this time. There's a whole new conversation. People don't know what they don't know. So this is why one guy told me a year ago, he said, data's king. Data, I laughed. I said, nah, innovation's king, because you have no data about this actual virus that you didn't see coming. There is no data on the coronavirus now. So how do you rebuild the world after devastation? Not data, innovation. So innovation is king.
Right. And that's going to be clear. That's going to be key for us to really understand as we move forward, because we are going to move forward and we are going to eventually come out of this. But in the meantime, what are we doing? And I so appreciate both of you joining me today to have this conversation, because these are the kind of conversations that we need to be having, and we need to be having them now as we prepare to go forward and move out of this, they're not going to go back to the way they were. They're not. I don't even know what normal is. I don't think anybody knows what normal is anymore. But when we come out of this, we're going to have to be prepared to move forward, and to move forward in civility, because that's the only way we're going to be able to get to the next place that we're supposed to be, is we've got to be able to move forward in civility.
There's always more. Wait, there's always more.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Reeves. I want to thank both of you for joining us. If you have any closing comments that you would like to give at this time, we can go ahead and do that. And I want to thank everyone that's joined us online. We're going to be doing this weekly and having these beautiful color conversations on colorism and how we're going to eradicate colorism in communities of color across the globe. So if you have any ending comments for us, we would love to hear them. I wanted to say, Cherie Stewart commented that she's traveled on vacation once with an acquaintance, and every negative issue she attributed her treatment to her color and not her nasty attitude. Yes, colorism exists, but you do have to also examine how you value yourself. And that is where we really need to go to begin to look at ourselves and how we see ourselves, value yourself so that you can give value to other people. So, Professor Jared, do you have any closing comments for us?
Yes, if people can be taught to be uncivil, then people can be taught to be civil. If people can be taught to hate one another, then they can be taught to love one another.
Wow.
Absolutely. Professor Dr. Clyde Rivers, our world civility leader.
7.8 billion people are 7.8 billion people solutions. We need everyone in the world. We need their gifts to bring the contribution they're supposed to bring to the world. 7.8 billion people are 7.8 billion people solutions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So today, value yourself and be someone's solution. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for joining me today. My first show, always more in store for Karen Moore. My first show, and to have both of you, two iconic civility leaders, was such a blessing and such an honor for me. I thank you both so much for joining us. And for those of you who joined us, please share and let people know we'll be back again next week. And just be kind. Show civility today as you go forth. One of the things I do want to say also is I always have a special place in my heart for caregivers. If you know somebody out there that's a caregiver that's dealing with this pandemic and also having to take care of someone, reach out to them and just say, I love you, say I'm with you. Just be kind to each other. That's what we need to do. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a blessed, blessed day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.